This is going to be an introduction to statistics. Introduction to statistics. Now, statistics is very closely related with probability because you use statistics to predict the probability and vice versa. So let me start off by showing you the difference between probability and statistics. Okay, so in probability, you are given the probability and you are predicting the outcome. So for example, if I say that the probability that a student or a high school graduate will go to college is 78%, then if in our school, if there are currently 550 or 150 students graduating, how many of those students are predicted to go on to college? Right? That's the kind of question that you'll be dealing with in probability. But the problem is, in real life, you don't actually know this probability. How do you know that 78% of high school graduates will go to college? You have to look at the data that you have and predict what the probability is. The same thing is for, let's say, weather. If it says the probability that it will rain tomorrow is 65%, how do you find this probability in the first place? So this is what statistics does. So statistics, we are given the outcome. So it's the reverse of what probability does. We are given the outcome in statistics and we are predicting the probability. So we don't know the actual probability of a high school graduate going to college, but we do know that in the previous class of high school graduates, out of 147 students, that 97 of them went to college. So this is our data. Based on this data, we can find the probability. Now, of course, this probably is not going to be 100% exact, but it's a good starting point in our collection of data. So to get the probability, 97 out of 147 students went to college in last year's class. So that's going to give us 0.65, or I should say 660. So about 66% of the high school graduates will go to college based on our last year's data. So this is what statistics does. It's given the data and we're predicting the probability. Okay, same with the case with weather. Based on our previous data, so many cases out of so many cases produced rain. So that's why we can infer that 65%, or there is a 65% chance of rain coming given the circumstances. So studying this part, studying the data that gives us the probability, is what statistics does. So statistics is really all about data. Now there are two types of statistics. So we've done probability in our previous section. So we'll be focusing on statistics for this one. So there are two types of statistics. One is called descriptive statistics, and another is called inferential statistics. And descriptive statistics is really just collecting data. So let's say that you've asked 10 7th and 8th graders, middle school students, about what their favorite color is. Okay, and let's say that 3 of them said red, 4 of them said blue, 2 of them said green, and 1 said yellow. Okay, so this is what descriptive statistics is. It's just collecting data. And inferential statistics is using the data that you've collected and applying it to the bigger population, or applying or drawing conclusions on the bigger population. Okay, so based on our data here, we are drawing the conclusion that 40% of middle school students likes blue. Okay, and this is based on this data right here. 4 out of 10 students said that they like blue. So we are drawing the conclusion and applying this conclusion to the bigger population. Now, of course, this is not going to be true because our sample is too small. We have only asked 10 students, and it's very likely that maybe half of those students said they like black, and that doesn't necessarily mean that half of the middle school students in the world are going to like black. So the bigger our data here, the more accurate our probability or our conclusion will be here. But those are the two different kinds of statistics. One is just collecting data. The other one is using that data to infer. That's why it's called inferential, to infer or to conclude about a larger population. Now let's look at the type of data that we can study with statistics. And I'm sure you've heard of these terms before. There are two types of, let me start off with this. The thing that you're studying with statistics is called variables, much like in algebra, where we call the letters as variables. The variable. So in this case, our variable right here was favorite colors. That's an example of a variable that we're studying. A variable can be a height of certain people, or a number of certain people, or a favorite food, anything that we would like to study with statistics. And there are two kinds of variables. We have qualitative and quantitative. And you might have guessed what each of these mean. Qualitative are non-numerical data. I can't spell numerical data. Okay, non-numerical data. So an example would be this one right here. Favorite color. Color is not numerical data. Favorite color, favorite food, favorite animals, etc. So these are all qualitative data. And quantitative data, you've done this in probability, but there are two different kinds of quantitative. Quantitative means numerical, so we're dealing with numbers. But inside quantitative data, we have two different types. We have discrete which is associated with counting. So counting how many people or how many objects, how many animals. And continuous, which means measuring. Okay, I'm assuming that you know the difference between discrete and continuous to some degree, because we've covered that previously. But continuous will be measuring like a height or weight, and there are like measurements in between two numbers. But discrete, you either have you're usually dealing with whole numbers. You have either one person or two people. You can't have 1.5 people. Okay, so these are the things that we can study using statistics, either qualitative or quantitative. And then once you're studying quantitative, you can further dissect it into discrete data and continuous data. Now, when you study statistics, you can't actually collect data for everyone. So for example, if you want to find the most popular TV show for high school students, you can't actually ask every single high school students in the world and gather what their most favorite or most the TV show that like the most is. Right? That's very unrealistic to do. So instead of asking all the high school students in the world, we just ask a sample of high school students. So this distinguishes us the population from the sample. So the population is what we are studying. So we are actually trying to study all the high school students. So everyone included in the area that we're studying, high school students. We're trying to find something about high school students. So this is the population. But we can't actually study all of the population. We can't go throughout all the world and gather data from all the high school students. So our sample is actually only 100 high school students. It might be near where you live. Right? We're just gathering information about 100 high school students where you live, instead of asking the whole high school student population. So this is what you do in statistics. You have to collect samples instead of studying the whole population. And the variable for this specific type of study would be popular TV shows, because that's what we're studying, or that's what we're trying to find the data on. Okay, so these are the different areas or the discrimination of the data in statistics that we're studying. Okay, so we need to recognize what the population is when we're doing statistics. Who are the candidates? Who are the body of people that we're trying to draw conclusions on? That would be our population. The sample. We can't study all of the people included in the population, so we need to select a few people that we can study, and that will be our sample. The variable is going to be what are we trying to study about this population. And in this particular case, the variable is going to be qualitative, because this qualitative is going to be non-numeric. Popular TV shows is not going to be numeric. Okay, so these are the basic areas of statistics and the terminology that we use in statistics in studying data.